Election polycrisis. Should we expect multiple October surprises from the deep state WEF-UN cabal? To answer that question, I'll say absolutely. Just like in 2020, before 2020, they have to do something. They're going to manufacture something to try to steal, try to take away Americans' power to vote for who they want to really vote for. They know that the majority of the people are behind Trump. We're tired of the globalist agenda. We're tired of other people in the Democrat Party in particular putting other countries before they put our own country. And we're sick and tired of it. And the majority of the working class are actually pro-Trump. And they're afraid of that because they know Trump is going to come in and bust up the deep state and bust up the cabal. So they're going to do everything they can to try to prevent this from happening. So we have to be mindful. We have to protect President Trump. We have to protect our best interests. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. I can go a little bit more deeper into this on my Patreon. I might do another one of these on my Patreon where I can go like I said, I go a little bit deeper. I don't have to worry about being censored. Also follow me on X, where I put out my thoughts and news throughout the day there as well. All right, so let's talk about this news. Now, this comes from the New American, from William F. Jasper. And he reports that he states, our multiple planned crisis just around the corner may be emergencies serious enough to throw the election, maybe postpone the election, even cancel the election. Now, these are questions. These are questions, YouTube. Just throwing that out there. How about a new pandemic? Fears over bird flu and monkeypox are being amped up now. Or a catastrophic cyber attack. The globalists at the World Economic Forum, but them too, the World Health Organization as well. The Council on Foreign Relations and other deep state institutions have been prepping us for that for the past few years. How about a massive coordinated series of terrorist attacks like those in Gaza last October? The Biden-Harris regime has conveniently opened our border and invited millions of migrants, including known terrorists, to invade our country. We have thousands of terrorists, known terrorists, in this country right now because of the open borders, and they are still doing absolutely nothing about it. Or perhaps another round of nationwide riots and mayhem a la George Floyd BLM, a combination of back-to-college pro-Palestine protests and a race-baiting police shooting should provide sufficient sparks for a coast-to-coast conflagration. Or how about Judge Juan Merchan ordering Donald Trump to jail in the totally political hush-money lawfare case just days or weeks before the election? Merchan has shown himself to be conflicted, completely biased, and willing to do Team Biden-Harris bidding in locking up its opposition. Or another assassination attempt, maybe all of the above and more. You can't put anything past these evil globalists. 2020's October surprise. We've come to expect the October surprise dirty tricks will accompany U.S. presidential elections. Last time around, we had several of them. Perhaps you recall the October 2020 sensational story that the FBI had thwarted a plot by pro-Trump militia misfits to kidnap Michigan's far-left Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmore. We all know that thing was produced by the FBI. How did they continue to get away with this? I mean, we know now that the FBI started this whole thing. The whole thing was staged and fake, and they did this to discredit Trump, pro-Trump people, which is just evil. Our government is so evil. The FBI needs to be disbanded. The FBI needs to be gone. We need to get rid of the FBI. The hate Trump pro-Biden mainstream media rode the phony story all the way to election day. As it turns out, the plot was almost entirely confected and financed by the FBI. In other words, there have been no sensational kidnap plot without the FBI DOJ orchestrating it. I mean, they orchestrated the whole thing. Everyone that was involved was FBI, aside from a handful of people. I mean, it's crazy. At the time, the same media chorus joined in unison to protect Joe Biden from a genuine, legitimate October surprise, the Hunter Biden laptop. In fact, the media joined with traders in the intelligence community to turn the laptop story into a condemnation of Donald Trump. And we, I talked about that. You may recall that just 2 weeks before the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election, 51 former high-level IC operatives, and I say evil entities, signed a letter claiming that Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. They knew it wasn't. They had no actual proof that it was Russian information whatsoever. They claimed Putin's operatives were doing this to help Trump. That big lie was dutifully trumpeted by the deep state sock puppet in the Mockingbird media. The liars, ours, us U.S. gang of 51 IC spooks led by John Brennan, the usual suspects. I can't stand these guys. These guys need to be locked up for treason. Or sedition. At fact, they need to be locked up for sedition. John Brennan, James Clapper, Michael Hayden, and Mitchell Morrill, along with Merrick Garland's DOJ, and their media accomplices, sustained this deception for more than 4 years before acknowledging that the laptop was indeed genuine and not Russian disinfo. More than October. Of course, the media prostitutes and their deep state handlers have not restricted themselves to October surprises. With Trump, they have been going full throttle 24/7, 365. Their unprecedented nonstop barrage of lawfare attacks is alone the equivalent of multiple October surprises. However, with all of the team Democrat Biden-Harris chickens coming home to roost, inflation, which I talk about to ad nauseum, invasion, talking about the southern border there, crime, energy, wars, military breakdown, social collapse, and more. Not even all the phony polls showing Kamala Harris soaring in popularity will do the trick come election day. Thus, we can be sure that in addition to registering hordes of illegal migrants and felons to vote, and I did a whole video on that when the guy went around knocking on the doors, asking them people, do they want about registering to vote, and they said, and they're illegals. They said, are you citizens? And they say no. And they said, are you registered to vote? And they go, yes. So they're already registered. Readying pallets of pre-printed ballots for. I'm not going to talk about that. You got to be you got to be careful here on this platform. So I'm not going to say anything about that. But y'all can understand what's going on here. And the Cabal have plenty of dirty tricks, plenty of shenanigans going on here. You know what I'm saying? Now let's talk about the Cabal. Did we say Cabal? Yes. And in doing so, we are merely repeating an admission, a boost actually, by one of the MSM's prostitutes. Let us recall the gloating article by Molly Ball in the February 15, 2021 issue of Time magazine titled, and they admitted it. They couldn't, and that's the thing about evil and Satan. He has to tell you the evil things that he's going to do to you. And so they admit this because they think they love that they did this. They want people to know that they did this because they feel so smart. They feel so intelligent that they got away with this. But titled "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election." This amazing piece confirmed what many of us knew was happening with dark forces behind the scenes. Ms. Ball approvingly described, quote, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. Evil stuff. She acknowledges that this was a massive conspiracy, her word, involving big media, big tech, big business, big labor, big intel, and big government. That's pretty much and I don't understand why people are voting for this. You are voting for the extermination of your own existence. You giving these people more and more power and control and allowing them to get away with more and more of this stuff. They're gonna do more to you to control your lives. But, quote, there was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs, Ball wrote. The result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and big business titans. But wait a minute, I thought the left-wing, I thought the Democrat Party was against big business, right? Right? Yeah, right. Keep in mind that she thinks this is wonderful because it, quote, saved America for Trump and his MAGA America troglodytes. One of the big surprises to come out of that election was the unprecedented deluge of private money from a single source targeting our election machinery. Meta Facebook billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, remember the Zuckerbucks, and his wife ponied up $400 million for two liberal left outlets, the Center for Tech and Civic Life, CTCL, and the Center for Election Innovation and Research, CEIR, CARE. This massive infusion of Zuckerbucks was funneled to local election officials and activist nonprofits, particularly targeting efforts to stuff the COVID-19 drop boxes. Now let's talk about the October Polycrisis surprise, which brings us to this year's October Polycrisis surprise. Get ready for a rollout of fear-mongering on a scale like you've never seen before. We are likely to see daily newscasts and headlines screaming, Polycrisis, Polycrisis, and emergency, emergency. Leading the charge of the Polycrisis fright peddled is the World Economic Forum, you know, the jet-setting club of globalist billionaires, business moguls, politicians, dictators, and celebrities with carbon footprints the size of sovereign nations, but who prescribe austerity and insect diets for us while they dine on caviar, filet mignon. Y'all know I've done so many videos about the WEF and what they really believe in. Here are but a few of the many WEF speeches, articles, and video presentations promoting the Polycrisis fear campaign. Here's one. We're on the brink of a polycrisis. How worried should we be? This is why polycrisis is a useful way of looking at the world right now. Experts explain what is the polycrisis. Welcome to the age of polycrisis, the Global Risk Report 2023. Instability, inflation, and the polycrisis, the Global Risk Report half a year on. Cybersecurity in the era of polycrisis. Can the world polycrisis help us make sense of the post-COVID world? How to maintain global food security during a polycrisis. So we see where we're going here, right? You get the drift. The overall polycrisis message is, quote, be afraid, be very afraid, and then trust us, the experts, to take care of you and lead you through the polycrisis. In fact, the WEF and the United Nations, with which the WEF has a formal strategic partnership agreement, intend to completely reconfigure the world, socially, politically, economically, morally, spiritually, a new world order via the Great Reset. And mind you, no one voted for these people. No one voted for any of this. Naturally, the WEF and UN globocrats, I love that word, I'm gonna steal it, have plenty of assistance from a huge globalist network. Also hymning the polycrisis anthem are the usual suspects. You know, the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, I talk about them all the time. The European Council of Foreign Relations, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Carnegie Endowment, the Aspen Institute, the New York Times, the Nation, Reuters, Time, Financial Times, CNN, Vox, etc., etc. All of this is aimed at herding us into a world government under the United Nations. The setup for the polycrisis Great Reset was put forward in a 1962 report for the U.S. State Department titled Study Memorandum Number 7, A World Effectively Controlled by the United Nations. The author, Dr. Lincoln P. Bloomfield, his CFR guy, professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology and former State Department official, was a member of the CFR. A world effectively controlled by the United Nations, wrote Bloomfield, is one in which world government would come about through the establishment of supranational institutions characterized by mandatory universal membership. Mandatory. So how are they going to get people to join? How are they going to mandate this? How are you going to make people join? By the power of the gun. Thereby codifying a radical rearrangement of power in the world. We have reported on Bloomfield's world government scheme many times in the New American. I have also covered it extensively in the book Global Tyranny, Step by Step. The United Nations exposed. I might have to check out that book. But suddenly nasty and traumatic shocks. Particularly noteworthy is Bloomfield's acknowledgement that there is bound to be resistance to his radical proposal for a global rearrangement. You think that's why you got people fighting against it, like Russia. That's why we see what's going on there, because they don't want to be a part of this. They want to create their own global power. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you got NATO and them and the United Nations going after them. Thus, the organized globalists would most likely have to resort to shock therapy to gain acceptance, the smarter, speedier path to global merger and world government, he said. Quote, relies on a grave crisis or war to bring about a sudden transformation in national attitudes sufficient for the purpose. According to this vision, the world we examine may be brought into existence as a result of a series of sudden, nasty, and traumatic shocks. It certainly looks like we are being set up for a series of sudden, nasty, and traumatic shocks in the near future. So be prepared. Get your family prepared. That's another reason why they're destroying this economy. So when they bring out the Polycrisis, we feel like we have no choice but to go join in to the deep state, to join in to the WEF and listen to their policies and let them control us. And I think it was Ben Franklin who says, if you give up security for safety, you're neither secure nor safe. I'm sorry. If you give up your security, for safety, you are neither secure nor safe, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but y'all get the point. You do not sovereignty. I'm sorry. If you give up your sovereignty for security, you will neither be sovereign nor secure. So we definitely don't want to give up our sovereignty to these global elites that don't care anything about us. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.